Kadosh Boker Tov. And we're going to continue with the halachot of what is permitted and prohibited during the time of the Mincha. I'm going to read to you now the maskana of the halacha to do with a Seuda, and then Blineder tomorrow we'll continue with the maskanat halacha of to do with working before the time of the Mincha. The minhag ha'olam is to be mekel, to eat a regular Seuda, that you're eating bread even more than a kabetza after chatzot hayom before you pray Mincha. And even the Sfaradim in the Dot Mizrach, they had this minhag to be mekel, as long as it was a mincha ketana. And they were on somech on the fact that there is a zman kavua that they usually go every single day to the Bet Knesset, right? Or, for example, that somebody is going to be a shomer, right? And if they could pray mincha gedolah, so therefore it's better to, in order to be choshesh to shitat manan shulchan aruch, which means, if you remember, we already mentioned that if you have a choice to pray mincha gedolah or mincha ketana, lecha techila, even the Mishnah Berurah brings it down, and for sure according to Shitat Meran, mincha ketana is always better than mincha gedolah. Other than there's obviously Shabbat that you could be mekel even lecha techila, as is brought down in the Or Letzion, right? However, though, to do it during the weekday, mincha ketana is better than mincha gedolah. But if you're going to have a meal and this meal has bread, so therefore, and we're talking about a small meal, we're not talking about a brunch of a wedding or pidyon ben, which we'll speak about in a few minutes afterwards. So then what happens is that in such a scenario, it is better to pray mincha gedolah in order to be yotzei chovah shitat maran, that you're not going to have a meal before mincha. Now, to do the minhag Ashkenazim, they could be mekel to start the Seuda regila even after mincha gedolah, right? As long as it was a mincha ketana, which means that for them, there's much less problems. Because basically what happens is there's already a Mishnah in Masechet Shabbat that speaks about that right before Mincha or Samuch to Mincha, you're not allowed to do certain things. So one of them was, for example, to start judgment, right? To have a Seuda, right? Another one is haircut, and there's others as well. And the entire question is, which Mincha is it talking about? Is it talking about Mincha Ketana or Mincha Gdolah? So we take according to the opinion that it's even Mincha Gdolah, and the Ashkenazim are taking according to the opinion that it's going to be Mincha Ketana. So he says, so now if you're going to put someone there in order to remind you, right, which means somebody that's not having a Seuda whatsoever, so then you could be Mekel. Did you realize though that one of the heterim is that we are being somech that we have a kavua time to pray in the Bet Knesset, which means very important is that if a person has a fixed minyan, right? So then for him it's very easy that he's going to remember, that he's not going to forget. Why? If it's going to be that he doesn't have a fixed time to go to a Bet Knesset, or he's shopping around, right? Sukkah hopping, that he's going from one Bet Knesset to another one time mincha to another time mincha, so then he has nothing what to rely on. Why? Because how's he going to remember? Maybe he already prayed mincha, he didn't pray mincha, he doesn't even know whether he doesn't, what time he's praying. But if he's got a zman kavua, or he's got a shomer, which is somebody that's going to watch him in order to make sure that he's not going to pass the time of the mincha, so therefore he has, right, what to rely on. Now this is all talking about a Seuda regila. Seuda gdolah, you cannot be mekel from already chatzot hayom, right? And even if you have a zman kavua to go to the Bet Knesset, it doesn't help. And even if you have somebody to remind you that you have to pray mincha, it does not help. And even according to the Ashkenazim, it should be machmir, that once we're talking about Seuda gedolah, it's much different. Why exactly is that? Because what is the difference between Seuda gedolah and Seuda ketana? So Seuda gedolah is a Seudat, for example, erusin, nisuin, a wedding, right? If they're going to have a wedding in the middle of the afternoon, and they still didn't pray mincha. So to start a Seuda before mincha is problematic. First, pray mincha, and then afterwards you could have your Seuda. Seudat erusin also, an engagement party. Right now he says, a brit milah. Why are these things? He says, because since there's so many people that they attend, and they take a long time, and usually many times they also drink, right? We're talking about alcoholic beverages. So therefore, these are called Seuda Gdolah, that you cannot be mekel, even though albeit that you have the other conditions, which is that you have a fixed time to go to the Bet Knesset, or whether it is that you're going to have the shomer, still you should pray mincha, and then you're going to come and partake of the Seuda Gdolah. However, though, Seuda Ktana is a Seuda Regila, that even if they're going to eat more than a kazait or a kabetzav pat, right, but he's eating it in his house, we're not going to suspect that he's going to start drinking, or he's going to start eating other things, or he's going to start doing other things that all of a sudden he'll forget, and therefore he'll go to the Bet HaKnesset and he'll be able to pray normally. Right? There's a question to do with Seudat Pidyon Ben. He says over here, Pidyon Ben is also considered, right, Seuda Gedolah, and any Seuda which there's going to be a lot of people partaking it is also going to be the same halacha. So just to have that in mind. Now, Seudat Shabbat Shachrit is considered a Seuda Ktana. Now, if you do want to drink, so then we're going to get into a problem again, right? But again, he comes and he says that usually if a person's going to pray later on the mincha, and it's still right before, anyway, you should try to eat on Shabbat before Chatzot anyway, so therefore you don't have this problem. But even still, even if you do, the same halacha would apply to Seudat Yom Tov. You still have what to rely on, right? That especially if you're not going to start drinking a lot of alcoholic beverages, other than just the kiddush, so then you're allowed to continue, and then you're going to pray mincha later on. There's not going to be a problem. Now tomorrow, Bli Neder, we'll continue with the maskana to do with work, which work is permitted and prohibited to do during the time right before mincha.